Marcus Bennett was 41 years old when he returned from a 6-day business trip and discovered that almost everything he owned had disappeared from the home he shared with his fiancée. The custom dining table was gone, the paintings were gone, the antique writing desk that had belonged to his grandfather was gone, his watch collection was gone, the vintage stereo equipment from his college years was gone. Even the framed photograph of his parents standing outside their first grocery store had been removed from the wall. In the bedroom, half the closet was empty. His suits remained, but several boxes containing family documents and personal keepsakes had vanished. Marcus stood in the center of the living room of their Atlanta home and listened to an echo that had never existed before. On the kitchen island sat a white envelope. Inside was his engagement ring receipt, a printed cancellation notice from their wedding planner, and a letter from his fiancée, Camille Foster. Marcus, I cannot spend another year waiting for you to decide whether the life we planned actually matters. I have sold the things I helped choose and the things you never seem to care about. I took what I believe I am owed. My attorney will contact you regarding the rest. Please do not call me. Marcus read the letter twice. Then his phone rang. The caller was Naomi Whitfield, president of Whitfield Crown Auctions, one of the largest luxury auction houses in the Southeast. Marcus answered. Naomi spoke without greeting. Marcus, I need you to stay calm. He looked around the empty room. That is becoming a popular request today. Naomi went silent. You are home. I arrived 20 minutes ago. Then you have seen it. Seen what? Naomi exhaled. Camille consigned a major collection to Whitfield Crown yesterday. Furniture, art, watches, documents, vintage audio equipment, jewelry, and personal memorabilia. Marcus closed his eyes. How much? Preliminary estimate is between $1.3 and $1.7 million. His voice became quieter. Has anything sold? No. The auction is scheduled for Friday. The catalog team recognized several pieces from your private inventory. We froze the consignment immediately. Marcus looked toward the space where his grandfather's desk had stood. Does Camille know you called me? No. Does she know who owns Whitfield Crown? Naomi paused. Apparently not. Marcus almost laughed, but nothing about the moment felt funny. Camille believed she had secretly removed and sold his possessions through a prestigious auction company because she expected the auction house to protect the identity of its consigners. She did not know that Marcus had purchased Whitfield Crown Auctions 4 years earlier through Bennett Meridian Holdings. She did not know he remained the controlling owner. She did not know Naomi reported directly to the board he chaired. And she did not know that every item she had delivered was currently sitting inside a secure warehouse belonging to the man she was trying to leave. Before we continue, comment where in the world you are watching from and subscribe, because Camille believed she had converted Marcus' belongings into the money she needed for a new life. What she had actually done was deliver the evidence of her plan directly into a company Marcus controlled. Marcus grew up in Savannah, Georgia, above a small grocery store owned by his parents. His father, Leonard Bennett, spent most mornings unloading produce before sunrise. His mother, Evelyn, kept the books, negotiated with suppliers, and remembered the names of almost every family who entered the store. They never became wealthy. They built something more stable than wealth appeared to be when Marcus was a child. The store paid their mortgage. It helped put Marcus through school. It employed 6 people from the neighborhood. When a local family could not afford groceries immediately, Evelyn kept a notebook behind the register and allowed them to pay later. Leonard hated the notebook, not because he disliked helping people, because he knew some debts were never paid. Evelyn always gave the same answer. Then we will know what helping them cost. Marcus learned something from both parents. Leonard taught him that every asset needed protection. Evelyn taught him that protecting value did not require becoming suspicious of everyone. Marcus was fascinated by business from an early age. At 13, he reorganized the store inventory because he noticed his father ordered certain products according to habit rather than sales. Leonard allowed him to try. Waste fell. At 16, Marcus convinced his parents to begin supplying several small restaurants with produce in the mornings before the grocery store opened. That side operation eventually produced almost 1/3 of the family income. Marcus studied economics and accounting at Howard University, then worked in corporate finance in Washington before earning an MBA. His first major role involved evaluating family-owned companies for a private investment firm. He discovered he preferred businesses with physical history: warehouses, manufacturers, hotels, art dealers, auction companies, logistics providers, companies where value could be touched, inspected, damaged, repaired, or misunderstood. At 30, he started Bennett Meridian Holdings with two investors and $340,000 of his own savings. The first acquisition was a struggling specialty furniture manufacturer outside Richmond. The company had beautiful products, loyal craftspeople, terrible inventory management, and too much debt. Marcus purchased a controlling stake. Instead of closing the factory, he replaced its financial systems, sold unused property, renegotiated bank debt, and helped the company enter hospitality contracts. 4 years later, the manufacturer was profitable. Marcus used the cash flow and refinancing proceeds to buy stakes in two other businesses, then 5, then 11. Bennett Meridian became a private holding company focused on specialty manufacturing, logistics, hospitality services, art storage, estate services, and commercial real estate. Marcus did not become famous. He actively avoided it. He believed publicity made certain negotiations harder. Operating executives became the public faces of their companies. Marcus sat on boards, reviewed capital plans, and asked questions. By 37, Bennett Meridian controlled companies producing more than $800 million in combined annual revenue. Marcus' personal net worth exceeded $90 million. Camille knew he was successful. She did not understand the scale. They met at an estate sale in Atlanta. Camille was 32 and worked as an interior designer specializing in luxury residential properties. Marcus had attended because one Bennett Meridian hotel was looking for historic furniture for a renovation. Camille stood beside a 19th century cabinet, arguing with an auction representative. "The catalog description says French," she said. "It is Belgian." The representative looked tired. "The style is French-influenced. That does not make it French." Marcus listened for several minutes before asking how she knew. Camille turned. "The hinges." He looked at them. "What about them?" "Belgian workshops from that period often use this pattern. French makers usually used a different construction." Marcus smiled. "You sound confident." "I am correct." The auction specialist checked additional records later that afternoon. Camille was correct. Marcus bought the cabinet. Camille accused him of benefiting from her expertise without paying a consulting fee. He invited her to dinner as compensation. Their first date lasted 4 hours. Camille loved beautiful objects because she believed they carried stories people could not manufacture instantly. Marcus loved businesses for almost the same reason. He understood why a chair built by one family for 3 generations mattered differently from a chair produced by a factory capable of making $10,000 per month. Camille understood why the difference was visible. Marcus understood why the difference affected value. They fit. For several years, they fit extremely well. Camille helped Marcus furnish his Atlanta home. She selected art, furniture, lighting, and textiles. Marcus introduced her to craftsmen, estate dealers, and collectors. She eventually left her design firm and created Foster House Studio. Marcus invested no money in the business because Camille wanted independence, but he introduced her to accountants, attorneys, and several clients. Her firm grew. She designed private homes, boutique hotels, restaurants, and executive offices. Marcus proposed during a weekend in Charleston. Camille said yes before he finished asking. They planned a wedding for the following spring. That was when money began changing the relationship, not because they lacked it, but because they defined it differently. Camille clients became wealthier. She spent more time inside homes worth $20 and $30 million. She worked with people who treated objects as evidence of identity. Art consultants discussed paintings as investments. Designers discussed furniture as collectible assets. Watches, cars, wine, architecture, addresses, memberships. Everything said something. Camille began buying for their home more aggressively. Marcus enjoyed some purchases and questioned others. She once suggested a pair of antique Italian cabinets priced at $160,000. Marcus examined them and declined. "Why?" Camille asked. "Restoration is poor. You cannot see it from the front. That does not improve the restoration. They are perfect for the dining room. Not for that price." Camille became irritated. "You spend millions buying companies and suddenly $160,000 is irresponsible. A company produces cash flow. Cabinets do not. That is the most depressing thing you have ever said. Marcus smiled. It was not meant to become a serious argument. It did. Camille increasingly believed Marcus treated her expertise as decoration while treating his own expertise as investment. Marcus believed Camille had started confusing price with emotional importance. Neither said it correctly. Their wedding planning made the conflict worse. Camille wanted an elaborate 3-day celebration at a coastal estate. Marcus initially agreed to a budget of $280,000. Camille expanded the guest list: entertainment, floral design, custom installations, and private transportation. The revised estimate approached $470,000. Marcus objected. Camille accused him of trying to control her through money. Marcus reminded her that both of them had agreed to the original budget. She answered that people change plans. Marcus answered that budgets existed because plans changed. They slept in separate rooms that night. 2 weeks later, Camille met Adrian Cross. Adrian was 40, handsome, socially confident, and the founder of Cross Heritage Advisory, a company that helped wealthy families sell art, jewelry, collectibles, and entire estates. His business overlapped with Camille World constantly. He knew dealers, collectors, auction specialists, private bankers. He spoke about objects as both beauty and power. Foster House Studio hired Cross Heritage to locate several pieces for a major client. Camille admired how Adrian operated. He rarely questioned price if the story behind an object was strong enough. When Camille complained about Marcus, Adrian listened without challenging her assumptions. Marcus sees everything through return on investment, she said. Adrian smiled. Some people understand price but never value. The sentence was unfair. Camille liked it anyway. Their professional relationship became personal slowly. Lunch meetings became dinners. Dinners became messages after midnight. Adrian told Camille she deserved someone who understood the life she was trying to create. Camille told herself nothing inappropriate had happened yet. Emotional betrayal developed before physical betrayal. Marcus noticed the distance. He asked once whether Camille was unhappy. She answered that she was tired of feeling examined every time she wanted something. Marcus tried to explain that questions were not rejection. She said that with him, everything eventually became due diligence. He laughed slightly. Wrong response. Camille stopped talking. A month later, the affair with Adrian became physical during a sourcing trip to New York. Camille returned to Atlanta determined to end the engagement. Adrian advised her not to rush. Why? Because you need to understand what is yours first. Camille looked at him. We are not married. Exactly. That makes it easier and harder. He explained that anything she personally purchased belonged to her. Gifts could belong to her, depending on documentation. Joint purchases required agreement. Marcus' personal assets remained Marcus' property. Camille knew this. Adrian continued. But possession creates leverage. She frowned. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting you should not leave the house empty-handed while attorneys spend 6 months deciding whether everything was technically purchased by Marcus' company, Marcus' trust, Marcus' card, or Marcus himself. Camille was uncomfortable. I am not taking things that are not mine. Adrian softened his tone. Of course not. But you selected half that collection. Some pieces increased in value because you identified them. Marcus would never have bought them without you. That does not make them mine. It gives you an argument. Camille should have spoken to a lawyer. Instead, she continued speaking to Adrian. He had another motive. Cross Heritage Advisory was struggling financially. Adrian presented himself as a successful estate advisor, but several deals had failed. He guaranteed debt used to purchase inventory that had declined in value. He owed more than $2 million to private lenders. He needed liquidity. Camille did not know. He saw the Bennett collection as an opportunity. Marcus owned valuable watches, paintings, furniture, rare audio equipment, and several historical pieces acquired through estates. Adrian knew auction houses could sell the items quickly. He convinced Camille that converting disputed property into cash before ending the engagement would give her control. The money can sit in escrow, he said. Nobody is stealing anything. You are preserving value while ownership gets sorted out. That sounded responsible enough to quiet her conscience. But Adrian had no intention of placing every dollar in escrow. He planned to route the sale through a consulting company, claim a percentage as advisory fees, and use part of the money to solve his debt crisis. Camille did not understand that yet. Marcus was distracted during the same period because Bennett Meridian was completing the acquisition of a luxury estate services group in Chicago. The transaction required travel, negotiations, financing, and regulatory reviews. Camille interpreted his absence as more proof the marriage would always rank behind his businesses. Marcus interpreted her silence as temporary anger about the wedding. Both were wrong in different ways. 4 years earlier, Bennett Meridian had acquired Whitfield Crown Auctions. The auction house had existed for nearly 60 years and specialized in jewelry, art, furniture, watches, rare books, automobiles, and private collections. When Bennett Meridian purchased it, Whitfield Crown was respected but financially weak. Marcus kept Naomi Whitfield, granddaughter of the founder, as president. He invested in digital auctions, secure storage, authentication, international marketing, and private sales. Revenue doubled within 3 years. Marcus remained deliberately invisible. The brand retained the Whitfield name because clients trusted it. Camille knew Marcus invested in auction and estate businesses. She did not know he controlled Whitfield Crown specifically. She had attended several Whitfield events. She had even recommended the company to clients. Marcus had once mentioned that Bennett Meridian held the controlling position. Camille barely remembered. To her, it was one business among many she believed Marcus invested in passively. That misunderstanding became crucial. Adrian chose Whitfield Crown for the sale because he considered it the best auction house in Atlanta for the collection. Camille hesitated. Marcus knows people there. Marcus knows people everywhere in this business, Adrian answered. That does not mean they discuss private consigners with him. Auction confidentiality rules will protect you. Camille asked whether they should use a smaller company. Adrian said smaller houses would produce worse prices. He wanted maximum value. He also believed Whitfield Crown would advance funds against high-value consignments. He prepared an inventory from photographs and records Camille could access inside the home. A senior consignment specialist estimated the collection could produce more than $1.3 million. Camille signed the agreement describing herself as lawful owner or authorized representative for the property. That statement would later matter greatly. The specialist asked whether any pieces belonged to another person. Camille answered that the collection came from the home she shared with her fiancé and that she had authority to consign it. The specialist requested documentation for several valuable watches and artworks. Adrian supplied copies of invoices found in household files. Some invoices clearly listed Marcus. Adrian told Camille that the auction house would handle title verification. She accepted that explanation because she wanted it to be true. The removal happened while Marcus was in Chicago. A professional art transport company arrived Tuesday morning. Camille supervised. She told staff that she and Marcus were redecorating before the wedding. The antique desk belonging to Leonard Bennett was wrapped carefully. So were 2 paintings Marcus had purchased before meeting Camille. His watches were removed from a secured cabinet after Camille used a code Marcus had shared years earlier. She hesitated before opening it. Adrian stood behind her. If the watches are separate property, the proceeds can be separated later. That is why records exist. She opened the cabinet. By evening, the house looked unfamiliar. Camille took her personal clothing, jewelry, design books, and several pieces she clearly owned. She moved into Adrian's apartment. Then she wrote the letter. The following morning, Whitfield Crown intake staff began cataloging the collection. Naomi Whitfield happened to review a preliminary list because several pieces were significant enough for the House Autumn feature auction. She recognized the description of a vintage Audion grand reference amplifier. Marcus had shown it to her once during a discussion about specialty collections. Then she saw a painting by Elias Benton that Marcus had purchased through a Bennett Meridian estate acquisition. She asked who had consigned the items. The file listed Camille Foster, represented by Adrian Cross. Naomi immediately contacted legal counsel. The lawyers compared serial numbers and provenance records with Bennett Meridian insurance files. Several matches appeared. Naomi froze the collection. Then she called Marcus. Standing inside his empty living room, Marcus listened while Naomi explained. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he asked the most important question. Is everything physically secure? Yes. Nobody has access without legal approval. Any pieces transferred elsewhere. 3 watches went to our New York office for specialist evaluation. Still under company control. Good. What about payment? No proceeds, no advance. Marcus breathed slowly. Naomi asked whether he wanted security or police called immediately. No. First, preserve every document. Consignment agreements, emails, camera footage, transport records, authentication requests, everything. Already doing it. Then do not contact Camille until counsel reviews the facts. Naomi hesitated. Marcus. Yes. I am sorry. He looked around the empty house. Thank you for noticing. He ended the call and contacted Evelyn Shaw, his attorney and general counsel for Bennett Meridian. She arrived at the house 2 hours later. Evelyn was 55, precise, calm, and almost impossible to shock. She walked through the rooms, photographed missing areas, and read Camille's letter. Then she sat at the kitchen island. Did Camille have permission to sell any of these items? No. Which items clearly belonged to her? Clothing, personal jewelry, some furniture she purchased personally, several decorative objects. Did she remove those too? Yes. Fine. We separate them. Which missing property belongs to you personally? Most of the watches, family items, the stereo collection, 2 paintings, grandfather desk, anything belonging to Bennett Meridian or another entity. Several artworks are owned through a collection company. Some furniture belongs to the house trust. Evelyn nodded. And the house. Marcus' personal trust. Camille has no ownership. Wedding canceled. Apparently, affair. Marcus looked at her. Why do you ask? Because people rarely remove $1 million of property alone after writing a letter about emotional disappointment. Marcus told her about Adrian Cross. Evelyn wrote the name down. Does he have debt? I do not know. Find out legally. Already planning to. She looked around. Do you want the collection returned immediately? Marcus considered it. No. Leave it secured at Whitfield Crown until we understand the entire scheme. That answer surprised her. Why? Because if Adrian believes the auction is still proceeding, he may explain more in writing. Evelyn studied him. You are angry. Extremely. Good. Know it. Do not act from it. Marcus nodded. That evening, Camille sat inside Adrian's apartment drinking wine while waiting for the auction house to confirm the catalog schedule. Adrian appeared relaxed. Once the sale is complete, we place your share somewhere Marcus cannot control. Camille frowned. My share? The disputed share. You said escrow. Yes, structurally. She looked at him. What does that mean? Adrian smiled. It means lawyers will determine the exact allocation. Camille felt uneasy. Then her phone rang. Marcus' name appeared. She let it ring. Adrian nodded approvingly. Do not engage emotionally. Camille stared at the screen. Marcus did not call again. That disturbed her more than repeated calls would have. She expected anger, demands, threats. Silence felt like preparation. The following morning, Whitfield Crown sent Adrian a routine notice that several items required extended provenance review before final catalog acceptance. Adrian became irritated. This is normal, he told Camille. He called the specialist. The specialist explained that ownership documentation required clarification. Adrian answered confidently. Ms. Foster had authority to sell household property. The specialist requested written authority from Marcus Bennett for several items invoiced solely to him. Adrian said Marcus and Camille had shared possession for years. The specialist repeated the request. Adrian ended the call. Camille asked what happened. Paperwork. Is there a problem? No. Why are they asking for Marcus authorization? Standard compliance. Camille looked at him. You said they would not contact him. They have not. She accepted the answer for another day. Meanwhile, Evelyn's legal team reviewed the consignment records. The inventory contained 146 lots, estimated value $1.5 million. Ownership categories became clear. 31 lots belong solely to Camille. Estimated value $118,000. 48 lots were jointly purchased or ownership was ambiguous. Estimated value $360,000. 54 lots belong clearly to Marcus personally. Estimated value $690,000. 13 lots belong to trusts or corporate entities. Estimated value $330,000. Camille had signed a representation claiming authority over all 146 lots. More concerning was correspondence from Adrian. He had asked whether Whitfield Crown could issue a $400,000 advance against the collection before auction. The auction house had refused pending authentication. Evelyn looked at Marcus across his office. Did Camille know he requested an advance? I do not know. We need to know. Another discovery followed. Adrian had negotiated an advisory fee equal to 12% of gross proceeds, payable through Cross Heritage Advisory. On a $1.5 million sale, he expected roughly $180,000. He had also asked whether sale proceeds could be divided between Camille account and a Cross Heritage client account. Naomi had rejected the request because proceeds had to go to the legal consignor unless formal instructions supported another arrangement. Marcus listened. So he was using her. Probably. Does that reduce her responsibility? No. She still signed the representations and physically removed property. Marcus nodded. That distinction mattered. Evelyn recommended sending an immediate legal preservation notice to Camille and Adrian. Marcus agreed. Camille received the notice that afternoon. The document did not mention Marcus' ownership of Whitfield Crown. It stated that Bennett Meridian Council had identified unauthorized removal of property and demanded preservation in return. Camille called Adrian immediately. How does Marcus know? He came home. That does not explain how he knows where everything went. Maybe transport staff told him. You said confidentiality. Confidentiality does not prevent legal discovery. Camille's voice rose. Has Whitfield contacted him? No. How do you know? Because if they had, they would have told us the account is frozen. Adrian checked his email while speaking. A new message had arrived. His expression changed. What? Camille asked. Nothing. Adrian. He read the notice again. Whitfield Crown had suspended the consignment pending ownership verification. Camille went pale. Why? Because Marcus' lawyer made contact somehow. Camille stood. I want everything returned. Adrian looked at her. Do not panic. I said I want everything returned. That makes you look guilty. I removed belongings from his house while he was away and signed paperwork saying I could sell them. I already look guilty. Adrian lowered his voice. Listen to me. Much of that property was part of the life you built together. You have legitimate equitable arguments. Equitable arguments do not mean I can sell his grandfather's desk. That was the first time she said it aloud. Adrian's expression hardened. Do not start rewriting this as if I forced you. Camille stared. You told me possession created leverage. It does. You told me selling before lawyers got involved would protect me. It does. You asked for an advance. Silence. Camille stepped closer. What advance? Adrian recovered. Standard option. You told the auction house to pay $400,000 before the sale. How do you know? Because your face just answered. Camille grabbed her phone. I am calling them. Adrian reached for her wrist, then stopped before touching her. Do not make emotional decisions now. She laughed bitterly. That sounds familiar. Marcus says the same thing. Maybe he was right sometimes. Adrian's face changed. Camille called Whitfield Crown directly. The receptionist transferred her to Naomi. Camille had met Naomi twice at industry events but did not know her well. Naomi spoke formally. Ms. Foster, because the account is under legal review, I can confirm only that all items remain secured and no sale will proceed until title questions are resolved. Camille asked, Did Marcus contact you? Naomi paused. Our legal obligations prevent me from discussing internal communications. Camille understood that as yes. I want to withdraw the consignment. We can suspend it, but certain disputed property cannot be released until ownership is established. Why not release everything back to the house? Because the rightful owners include multiple individuals and entities. Camille closed her eyes. Multiple entities? Yes. She remembered Marcus explaining once that several artworks were owned by investment structures for insurance and estate reasons. She had dismissed it as unnecessary complexity. Now every detail mattered. Camille asked one more question. Does Marcus have a financial relationship with Whitfield Crown? Naomi remained silent slightly too long. I cannot discuss shareholder matters during an active dispute. Camille ended the call. Adrian asked what happened. She looked at him. Marcus owns part of Whitfield Crown. What? She said shareholder matters. That means something. Adrian opened his laptop. Public records showed Whitfield Crown parent company connected through several entities. He followed filings. Bennett Meridian Estate Services, then Bennett Meridian Holdings. His face lost color. Camille watched him. How much does he own? Adrian kept searching. I do not know. A private transaction article from 4 years earlier described Bennett Meridian acquiring a controlling interest in Whitfield Crown. Camille sat slowly. Controlling interest. Adrian said nothing. She laughed once in disbelief. I sold Marcus things to Marcus Auction House. Technically, you can sign them. Do not. Adrian closed the laptop. This does not change ownership law. It changes everything. How? Because he has every document. He would get them through discovery anyway. He has them now. Adrian looked irritated. That is not necessarily bad. Camille stared at him. For whom? Marcus learned that Camille had discovered the ownership connection about an hour later because Naomi reported the call. He felt no satisfaction. The irony seemed almost childish compared with the deeper problem. A woman he planned to marry had entered his private storage, removed family possessions, and attempted to sell them. Whether his company caught the transaction made the story interesting. It did not make the betrayal less personal. Evelyn asked whether he wanted to meet Camille. Not yet. She is asking through counsel to return everything. Good. Let the lawyers organize it. Are you avoiding her? Yes. Evelyn nodded. At least you know. The legal process moved quickly because Marcus did not want publicity. Camille hired attorney Rebecca Sloan, who immediately asked for the complete timeline. Camille told the truth about removing the property. Then Rebecca asked about Adrian. Camille described his advice. Did he tell you he would receive 12% of proceeds? 12%. Camille stared. He said normal advisory compensation. Did he tell you the amount? No. Did he tell you he requested $400,000 in advance funding? I learned later. Did he tell you he proposed routing part of the proceeds to his company account? Camille went silent. Rebecca leaned back. That is a problem. For him. For both of you. Why me? Because you were consignor. You represented authority. His financial motive may explain influence, but it does not erase your signatures. Camille looked down. Rebecca continued. Did Marcus hide Whitfield Crown ownership from you? I would not say hide. Did he ever tell you Bennett Meridian owned an auction business? Yes. Did you ask which one? I do not remember. Rebecca nodded. This is not a trap created by Marcus. No. Do not argue that it is. I was not going to. Good. The auction house released Camille clearly owned property to her attorney. Jointly disputed pieces remain secured. Marcus' property was returned through insured transport. The first item brought home was his grandfather's desk. Marcus stood beside the movers while they positioned it in the library. A scratch had appeared near one leg. Small, repairable. He ran his hand across it and remembered helping his grandfather sort receipts at the desk as a child. Anger returned, not because the desk was expensive. It was worth perhaps $9,000. Because Camille knew what it meant, she had sat beside it while Marcus told the story. She removed it anyway. That realization shaped everything that followed. The financial investigation into Adrian uncovered serious problems. Cross Heritage Advisory owed $2.4 million to lenders. Adrian had personally guaranteed $1.1 million. 2 clients had sued over disputed advisory fees. His company cash balance was dangerously low. Emails recovered through the auction dispute showed he had pushed Camille towards selling higher value objects first. In one message he wrote, "Watches and art create clean liquidity. Furniture can become a separate phase." Another message said, "Once funds settle, your negotiating position becomes much stronger." Camille had answered, "I do not want Marcus' personal family things sold if ownership is obvious." Adrian replied, "Ownership is rarely as obvious as people think." Yet he still included the grandfather desk. Rebecca showed Camille the messages. Camille stared at them. "I wrote that." "Yes. And then I let him include it anyway." "Yes." She covered her face. Rebecca allowed silence. Finally, Camille asked, "Did Adrian ever intend to place all proceeds in escrow? We cannot prove intent yet, but his proposed payment instructions suggest at least part would have moved across Heritage." Camille's voice became quiet. He needed my things. Marcus' things, Rebecca corrected gently. And yours. Camille nodded. That mattered. She confronted Adrian at his office. He was packing files because Cross Heritage landlord had demanded overdue rent. You are bankrupt, Camille said. Adrian looked at her. No. How much do you owe? This is business. How much? He closed a folder. A temporary liquidity issue. 2.4 million. His expression changed. You spoke to lawyers. Of course I spoke to lawyers. Camille dropped printed emails onto the desk. You wanted the auction advance because you needed cash. I wanted to protect your position and charge for professional work. 12%. Standard for complex disposition. You never told me the amount. You never asked. She stared. You were going to route money into your company. Administrative structure. Stop speaking to me like I am a client you can confuse. Adrian became angry. You wanted out of the engagement. You wanted leverage. You complained for months that Marcus controlled every financial decision. I gave you a plan. You gave yourself a commission. Both can be true. Camille shook her head. Did you love me? Adrian looked offended. Do not become dramatic. Answer, yes. She waited. He continued. But love does not mean pretending financial reality does not exist. Camille laughed sadly. Marcus could have said that sentence. Adrian realized the mistake. She picked up her bag. We are finished, because he owns the auction house. Because I finally understand I replaced one problem with another and chose the one that lied to me. Marcus did not lie to you. Adrian's answer came quickly. Camille stopped. Adrian saw it too late. She turned. Exactly. She left. Marcus did not celebrate the end of their relationship. He learned through attorneys. Evelyn told him during a meeting. Camille ended things with Cross. Marcus continued reading a report. All right, that is all. What should I say? Nothing. Evelyn watched him. You still love her. Marcus placed the report down. That does not matter to the property dispute. You are very good at separating categories. Usually, not always. He looked toward the window. I was going to marry her in 4 months. Now every object in my house feels like evidence. That matters. Evelyn nodded. Marcus decided not to pursue criminal charges personally. Certain corporate entities still had rights regarding removed property, but because everything had been recovered, no items sold, and Camille cooperated fully, civil resolution became possible. Adrian faced separate claims for attempted interference, misrepresentation to the auction house, and disputed expenses. Whitfield Crown banned Cross Heritage from future consignments pending investigation. 2 lenders later forced Cross Heritage into restructuring. Adrian eventually settled several claims and lost control of his company. He did not go to prison. His professional reputation suffered severely because estate advisory depended on trust. Marcus instructed Bennett Meridian executives not to interfere with him beyond legitimate claims. Naomi asked whether the auction house should share information with other companies. Only what law and professional standards require, Marcus answered. Nothing personal. She nodded. Camille agreed to reimburse transport, restoration, legal and security costs attributable to her actions. The amount exceeded $86,000. Marcus could have demanded far more. Evelyn told him his direct legal claims might support significant additional damages because of unauthorized access and interference. Marcus declined. I want what this cost, not a price for being hurt. Evelyn asked whether he understood that limiting claims was not the same as forgiveness. Yes. Their first face-to-face meeting occurred nearly 3 months after Marcus returned to the empty house. Rebecca arranged it at a mediation office. No property issue required the meeting. Camille requested one conversation before the settlement became final. Marcus agreed after thinking for several days. Camille entered wearing a dark blue dress and minimal jewelry. Marcus had seen her dressed for galas, weddings, design presentations, and client dinners. She looked smaller without performance. They sat across from each other. Attorneys waited in another room. Camille spoke first. I am sorry. Marcus did not answer. She continued. I know that sounds useless. It does not fix anything. No. I want to tell you exactly what I am sorry for. He waited. Camille folded her hands. I convinced myself that because I helped choose things, I had some moral ownership over them. Then Adrian convinced me possession could become leverage. But he could not have convinced me if part of me did not already want to punish you. Marcus looked at her. Punish me for what? Making me feel like everything I wanted needed an investment thesis. Marcus considered that. Did I? Sometimes. He nodded. Camille continued. But instead of telling you that clearly, I turned it into a story where you cared about money more than me. That made what I did feel justified. Until I saw the desk. Marcus' expression changed. She noticed. Camille's voice broke. I knew that desk belonged to your grandfather. I knew, and I still let them take it. Why? Because by then I was committed to proving that I had power too. She wiped tears. When Whitfield asked for ownership documents, I started realizing what I had actually done. Then I learned you owned the auction house, and for one terrible minute, I was angry at you. Marcus almost smiled without humor. Of course. I thought you somehow set me up. Then Rebecca showed me the dates. Bennett Meridian bought Whitfield Crown 4 years ago. You had no idea what I was planning. No, she nodded. That was worse. Why? Because the trap existed only in my own behavior. Marcus remained quiet. Camille continued. Adrian used me, but I used him too. He told me I was entitled to more than I knew I was. I wanted to believe him because it made leaving easier. He did not make me open your watch cabinet. He did not make me sign the consignment agreement. He did not make me write that letter. Marcus finally spoke. Why did you cancel the wedding without talking to me? I believed talking would turn into another negotiation. And what would have been wrong with negotiation? I wanted one decision you could not control. He absorbed that, Camille continued. I thought leaving dramatically would prove I was not dependent on you. Marcus looked at her. Independence would have been packing your things and leaving. I know. Selling mine was something else. Yes. Her tears returned. She looked down. Marcus asked, was Adrian the reason? Not completely. The affair was my choice. The problems between us existed before him. But he gave me a version of those problems where I was always right. That felt good. Marcus nodded slowly. I probably gave you the opposite sometimes. What do you mean? I treated questions like proof of responsibility. Sometimes you needed me to hear you before analyzing the request. Camille looked up. Do not make my choices equal to yours. I am not. I can recognize my failures without absorbing yours. That sentence stayed between them. Camille asked the question she feared most. If there had been no affair and no auction, would you still have married me? Marcus thought for a long time. Probably. Even with everything wrong between us, we had problems. Problems are not the same as betrayal. She cried quietly. Did you ever consider taking me back after the auction? No. The answer was immediate. Camille closed her eyes. Marcus continued. Not because of the money. I could replace every object except a few family pieces. It was the fact that you walked through our home deciding what you could convert into leverage against me. I cannot build a marriage inside that memory. She nodded. I understand. Do you? I am trying. That was enough. They signed the settlement later that week. Camille retained everything clearly hers. Joint purchases were divided or sold by agreement. Marcus received all personal and entity-owned property back. Camille reimbursed documented costs over time rather than liquidating her design business. Marcus refused any claim to Foster House Studio. He had never invested in it. He wanted no connection. Their wedding deposits were handled separately. Several vendors returned partial amounts. Marcus donated his portion of one non-refundable catering contract to a community event organized by a Savannah youth nonprofit. Camille heard about it later and did not contact him. Foster House Studio struggled after the breakup, not because Marcus attacked it, because Camille had neglected clients during the affair and legal dispute. She rebuilt slowly. For the first time, she began putting written ownership schedules into every residential design project. Who owned each item? Who paid? Whether furniture belonged to a homeowner, trust, staging company, or design firm. Clients initially found the process excessive, Camille insisted. She understood what ambiguity could become when relationships collapsed. She also changed the way she spoke about objects. Before, she told clients that homes should communicate identity. Afterwards, she told them that objects should support a life, not become evidence of one. Her designs became simpler, better according to some clients. She became less impressed by cost and more interested in meaning. 1 year later, she donated her professional services to renovate family rooms at a pediatric rehabilitation center. No press release, no social media campaign. Marcus never knew. Whitfield Crown Auctions experienced the strange situation differently. Naomi used the incident to strengthen title verification procedures. High-value household consignments now required clearer ownership evidence whenever relationships or estates were involved. Staff received new training. Marcus supported every change. During one board meeting, Naomi said, "We nearly accepted stolen property from our own chairman." Marcus looked at her. "Unauthorized property," Naomi smiled. "Your attorney has trained you." "Unfortunately," the board laughed. Then Marcus became serious. The system caught it. "Because you recognized one amplifier. That is not a system." Naomi nodded. They invested nearly $2 million in provenance technology, and integrated insurance and title records were legally permitted. The incident that could have embarrassed the auction house became a reason to improve it. Marcus' own life changed more slowly. He sold the Atlanta house 18 months later, not because the property had lost value, because he never stopped noticing where things had been removed. The dining room felt wrong even after replacing nothing. He left several walls empty deliberately, then realized he was preserving absence. Evelyn Shaw finally told him he was behaving like a museum curator of betrayal. Marcus did not appreciate the comment. It worked anyway. He bought a smaller house near Ansley Park. He moved the grandfather desk into a bright office overlooking a garden. He sold most of the watch collection through Whitfield Crown. Naomi asked whether that felt strange. "Very." "Do you want another auction house to handle it?" "No. This one has already demonstrated aggressive quality control." She laughed. The sale raised approximately $520,000. Marcus donated part to a vocational program teaching furniture restoration, metalworking, and traditional crafts. He kept 3 watches, one from his father, one from his grandfather, one he bought after his first successful acquisition. Their combined financial value was much lower than the collection. Their personal value was higher. 2 years after the engagement ended, Marcus met Dr. Simone Avery at an economic development conference in Charleston. Simone ran a nonprofit investment fund that financed small businesses in underserved neighborhoods. She had no obvious connection to his usual social circle. Their first conversation became an argument about whether private investment firms demanded too much control after providing capital. Simone believed they often did. Marcus believed founders often called accountability control after accepting money. They disagreed for 40 minutes. Then Simone asked what Bennett Meridian actually owned. Marcus began listing industries: furniture manufacturing, estate services, logistics, hotels, commercial storage, auction business. She interrupted. "Auction business. Whitfield Crown. You own Whitfield Crown. Bennett Meridian controls it." Simone laughed. "My mother watches their online auctions like sports." Marcus smiled. "That might be the best description of the customer base I have heard." Their relationship developed slowly. Marcus told her about Camille months before they became serious. He did not tell the story as a punchline. "My fiancée sold my belongings through an auction company I own. Sounds entertaining until someone understands why it happened." Simone listened, then asked, "What did you learn that was actually your responsibility?" Marcus thought, "I sometimes made people justify feelings as if they were spending requests." "Explain." "Camille would say she wanted something because it mattered emotionally. I would ask why it cost that much. Sometimes the financial question was valid. Sometimes I used it to avoid the emotional one." Simone nodded. "And what was not your responsibility?" "Her affair. Taking the property. Signing false authority." Marcus answered without hesitation. "Good," Simone said. He looked at her. "Good. Why?" "Because people who learn from betrayal sometimes become so committed to self-improvement that they start claiming responsibility for being betrayed." Marcus smiled. "You sound expensive. I am not your therapist. Even better." When their relationship became serious, Marcus did something he had never done with Camille. He scheduled a full financial conversation before discussing marriage, not because he suspected Simone, because he no longer believed secrecy and privacy were identical. They sat with separate attorneys and reviewed assets, businesses, trusts, expectations, household expenses, inheritance plans, and ownership. Simone asked questions for 6 hours. At one point, Marcus laughed. "What? You are reading the appendix. Why would they attach it if nobody should read it?" Marcus thought about Camille ignoring portfolio reports and felt the comparison. He stopped himself. Simone was not valuable because she behaved differently from Camille. She was valuable because she was herself. Comparison had already damaged one relationship. He refused to build another from it. Camille heard Marcus was dating someone seriously through mutual friends. She felt sadness, then relief that the sadness did not become entitlement. She did not contact him. 3 years after the auction incident, Foster House Studio received an invitation to bid on an interior redesign for a boutique hotel owned by a Bennett Meridian subsidiary. Camille immediately disclosed the relationship history. The procurement team forwarded it to compliance. Marcus was informed because of the conflict. He recused himself. Foster House won the project through an independent committee. When Naomi Whitfield heard, she called Marcus. That is either healthy governance or the universe has a sense of humor. Both. Did you know she was bidding? Only after disclosure. Are you comfortable? She is qualified. That was the end of it. Camille completed the project successfully. She never interacted with Marcus directly. The hotel opening received strong reviews. Marcus sent no congratulations. Camille expected none. Adrian Cross experienced a less graceful recovery. Cross Heritage entered bankruptcy restructuring after lenders accelerated debt. Adrian sold his client list and certain assets to a competitor. Investigations found no criminal fraud connected to Camille consignment because no sale occurred and no advance was paid. But his attempted fee arrangement and financial conflicts became known within the estate industry. He spent several years rebuilding as an independent advisor with strict oversight from partner firms. He contacted Camille once after everything ended. The message read, "I hope someday you understand I was trying to protect you." Camille deleted it. She did understand. That was the problem. Adrian had defined protection as giving her permission to do what she already wanted. Marcus had often defined protection as questioning everything. Neither extreme created intimacy, but only one man had encouraged her to convert another person's property into leverage. 4 years after the canceled wedding, Marcus attended Whitfield Crown annual collectors dinner. Naomi had convinced him to speak because the company was celebrating 65 years. Marcus hated speeches. She reminded him that chairmen occasionally needed to appear in public. Simone sat near the front. The event displayed several notable pieces from upcoming auctions. Near the entrance stood an antique walnut desk similar to the one Marcus' grandfather had owned. He stopped. Simone noticed. "You all right?" "Yes. Looks familiar." She examined it. "Do you want it?" "No." "Why not?" "I already have the one that matters." The answer surprised him with its simplicity. For years, the damaged desk represented betrayal. Now it had become a desk again. Still meaningful. No longer evidence. During his speech, Marcus talked about ownership, not the story. Most people expected comments about market trends, collectors, and investment value. Instead, he said that auction businesses had a peculiar responsibility. "We sell objects," he told the room, "but every object arrives with two different questions. What is it worth, and who has the right to decide what happens to it?" The first question is interesting. The second is essential. A painting worth $10 million cannot legally or ethically be sold by someone who does not own it. A chair worth $50 may carry a family history nobody else understands. Our work depends on respecting both value and ownership without confusing them. Naomi watched from the side of the stage. She knew exactly where the speech came from. Simone did too. Most guests did not. Marcus preferred it that way. After dinner, a young employee approached him. "Mr. Bennett, can I ask something?" "Of course. Is it true somebody once tried to consign your own collection here without knowing you owned the company?" Marcus looked toward Naomi across the room. She immediately pretended to be busy. Apparently, the story had survived. Something like that. "What did you do? Stop the sale?" "Obviously. Then what?" "Verified ownership." The employee looked disappointed. That is it. What did you expect? I do not know. Maybe you walked into the auction and bought everything back in front of them. Marcus laughed. That would have required paying commission to my own company for property I already owned. Terrible capital allocation. The employee laughed too. Then Marcus became serious. The interesting part was never that I owned the auction house. The interesting part was what someone believed they were entitled to do because they were angry. The employee nodded slowly. That became the real lesson of the story. People who heard it focused on the coincidence. A fiancée secretly sold her wealthy partner's belongings. She chose a prestigious auction house. The auction house belonged to him. Perfect reversal. But Marcus never considered the ownership reveal a victory. He had not designed it. He had not predicted it. He had simply built a company years before, and that company happened to become the place where Camille attempted to turn betrayal into liquidity. The auction house prevented financial loss. It could not prevent emotional loss. His grandfather's desk came back. The watches came back. The paintings came back. The photographs came back. The relationship did not. That was appropriate. Trust was not property that could be returned by insured transport. Years later, Marcus and Simone became engaged. He proposed quietly at home after dinner. No hotel, no photographers, no elaborate setup. Simone looked at the ring. Before I answer, she said, "Who technically owns this?" Marcus stared. She started laughing before he could respond. "You are terrible. I learned from your life. The ring is personally owned by me until I give it to you. Then it becomes yours." "Good." She held out her hand. "Then give it to me." Marcus smiled. "Will you marry me?" "Yes." They married 8 months later in Savannah with fewer than 80 guests. His parents' grocery store had closed years earlier, but Leonard and Evelyn still lived nearby. The wedding dinner included several people who had known Marcus before he owned anything significant. Naomi attended. Evelyn Shaw attended. Employees from Bennett Meridian attended. Nobody discussed valuation. Nobody asked who controlled which holding company. At the reception, Leonard pulled Marcus aside. "You happy?" "Yes." "Good." That was the entire conversation. Marcus looked across the room at Simone laughing with his mother. He remembered Camille saying she could not spend another year waiting for him to decide whether the life they planned mattered. She had been wrong about some things. Not everything. Marcus had often assumed providing security was the same as demonstrating commitment. He had often treated planning as emotional participation. He changed that. But changing did not require rewriting history. Camille still made choices that ended the relationship. Marcus still had failures that belonged to him. Both truths could exist. That became one of the most important lessons of his life. 6 years after the strange Whitfield Crown consignment, Marcus saw Camille again at an architecture and design fundraiser. They had not spoken in nearly 3 years. Camille approached him alone. "Hello, Marcus." "Camille, you look well. So do you." She glanced towards Simone, speaking with another guest. "Your wife?" "Yes." She smiled. "Congratulations." "Thank you." They stood quietly. Then Camille said, "Foster House is doing well. I have heard. The hotel project helped. Your team earned it." She nodded. There was something else she wanted to say. Marcus waited. Camille finally smiled faintly. "I still check ownership documentation 3 times before every installation." Marcus laughed. "That is probably excessive. I learned from an expensive teacher." He looked at her. "You paid the invoices." She nodded. "Fair." Then her expression became serious. "I am glad the desk came back." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "So am I. I think about that more than the watches or paintings." "So do I. Because I knew what it meant." "Yes." She looked down. "I am sorry." Marcus did not need the apology anymore. That was how he knew he could accept it. "I know." Camille looked at him. "Are we all right?" Marcus considered the question. "We are not anything anymore." Her face changed slightly. He continued gently. "But I do not wish you harm." She nodded. "That is probably what all right means now." "Probably." They shook hands and separated. The auction story continued circulating in social circles because irony survived longer than accurate details. One version claimed Camille actually sold everything, and Marcus purchased it back anonymously just to expose her. False. Another version claimed Marcus fired every Whitfield Crown employee who accepted the consignment. The opposite happened. He increased compliance funding. One version claimed Adrian escaped with hundreds of thousands of dollars. He received nothing. Another said Camille begged Marcus to reunite once she learned his real wealth. She did not. She apologized and accepted the end. Reality was less theatrical and more useful. Camille did not lose Marcus because she underestimated his money. She lost him because she chose manipulation instead of conversation. Adrian did not fall because Marcus destroyed him. His financial problems already existed, and his willingness to use Camille created consequences. Marcus did not win because he owned the auction house. He simply had the unusual fortune of having his assets carried directly into a system designed to verify ownership. The real victory came later. He did not use the auction house to humiliate Camille. He did not create a fake bidding event. He did not invite her to watch as he reclaimed everything. He did not publish the story. He recovered what belonged to him, paid attention to what the betrayal revealed about his own life, improved the company controls, and moved forward. That was quieter than revenge. It was also more difficult. One evening, years later, Simone entered Marcus' office and found him working at the grandfather desk. She placed a cup of tea beside him, still working. 10 minutes. You said that 30 minutes ago. That sounds possible. She leaned against the desk. You know what I like about this thing? Marcus looked at the wood. The craftsmanship. No. History. He smiled. That too. She ran her fingers near the repaired scratch. This mark. Marcus looked at it. The scratch from the move. Yes. Why do you like it? Because you could have restored it until nobody knew anything happened. Marcus looked at her. And you left it visible. The restorer said removing it completely would require taking away too much original material. Simone smiled. That sounds like a metaphor you would hate. I already hate it. She laughed. Marcus touched the scratch. For years he saw damage. Now he saw survival without pretending there had never been damage. Maybe that was sentimental. He allowed it. Camille once believed selling his belongings would give her control over the end of their relationship. Instead, every item arrived at a company whose first responsibility was asking one simple question. Who actually owns this? The answer protected Marcus' property. Life required a harder question afterward. Who owned the anger? Who owned the resentment? Who owned the mistakes? Who owned the choices? Marcus learned not to assign everything to one person merely because one betrayal was larger. He owned his failures. Camille owned hers. Adrian owned his. And once each piece was placed where it belonged, Marcus finally stopped living as if every relationship needed an inventory. The auction house remained his company. The desk remained his inheritance. The past remained true. But the future no longer belonged to any of them. It belonged to the life Marcus chose to build after everything he thought he was losing had already been carried out the door.